Well, anyway, so I was saying about the strike against the school's dress code policy. So there was about 10 of us that decided we were going to wear pants under our clothes, under our skirts.
What a radical thing, right?
Right, it was radical. And the newspaper came and did a story about us. Very shortly thereafter, the dress code policy changed in the Chicago public schools, and girls were allowed to wear pants to school. So all of you, those of you who wore pants to school, you have me and my group to thank for it. But anyway, so after that, I think it was a primer to getting involved in righting wrongs and doing things about something, and not just sitting there and saying, oh, somebody else's problem. And Michael James, insisted that I read the paper, insisted that I could help fellow students in the schools, and, convinced me that I should help organize and be an outreach person, and go to the different high schools and convince people that there's a different way to think about things. And
like what kind of things are you talking about?
Healthcare.
What do you mean by healthcare?
Just that, make it available to people, and my mom was a single parent, so I didn't have any health care. Nobody I knew really had health insurance, unless you were working for a family that that had a really good job, I guess. I don't know, but that wasn't anything I ever remember having as a kid. You just went to the doctor and you paid cash. Everything was cash, and if you didn't have it, you didn't go. So
how do these other high school kids, how do they feel about things you're talking about? I assume you're also talking about the war a little bit?
Oh yeah, the war was a big topic.
How do they think?
It varied. Some students were, they had family members in the service, and they were defensive about us talking about, that it was an unfair war, an unjust war, that the Vietnamese had the right to, make their own destiny. And but some students wanted to listen to what we had to say, and I think that that was something that the newspaper was really good at laying out those arguments. And I mean, nowadays, when I think about the articles that were in Rising Up Angry, and I think in some ways, the press has just caught up. I mean, because now they're talking about things like this, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, shit, right, this is how you should be investigating these things.
Right.
Just like these groups did back in the 60s, the radicals,
Right.
And it's not really radical anymore, it's starting to be the norm, so.
And what did the kids at the schools, the other students think of, like the cartoon and things like that? Wasn't there something else that was like, about the grapevine, where somebody was featured. Anyway, so tell us, how do people like the cartoon in the back, and or just
I don't know.
in general?
I remember selling the newspaper, having the quotas, having to try and sell more papers than anyone, and I guess it was a interesting way to look at entrepreneurship, But one thing that I remember is having the meetings in our houses and studying Mao and studying this, and the next day I would go out to my car, which had all kinds of Rising Up Angry newspapers in it, and my car was up on milk crates. And the local police, what was that squad that used to?
Red Squad.
The Red Squad. I know they're the ones who did that. I mean, who else would have done that to me? This was a junky car. This did not have good tires on it. And they just wanted to, harass me, because of course on the front cover of the paper it said, down with the pigs, or whatever it said, and it's scary.
Was that intimidating to you?
It was, but it didn't stop me. I mean, that was still when I was living at home, and I was probably 18 or so at that time, so yeah.
Did you also feel that with these risks that you were taking, that you got support from the people in Rising Up Angry? Did you have a sense
I did feel supported by Rising Up Angry. I have to tell you though that You know, like the FBI came to my house once and talked to my parents and talked to my brothers, and they didn't ever tell me about that for a long time. I mean, for years down the line, that we were visited by these. And so shortly after that, my mother had this great idea. Oh, you need to go visit your relatives in Norway. You haven't met them yet. So they set me up with a 6-week, remember when I went to Norway for 6 weeks? I mean, not, you know, 35, 40 years later, I figured out that, yeah, that's why she sent me there. Because she wanted me to get away from this group, you know. She didn't want to have any more meetings in her house while she was going off to work for minimum wage, her daughter talking about, you know, communism. And so that was, I mean, some parts of that was probably hard for the parents to take. I mean, you know, it was very, you know, anti-American. And so it was hard for the people around you to think, are you on the right track? Are you on the right path, you know?
Do you think they are also afraid that something might happen to you, that might end up in jail? Or...
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure that was part of it, especially after being visited by the FBI or someone who said they were FBI. Maybe they weren't, you know, I don't know.
They probably were.
Yeah. So,
many of us were concerned.
Yeah. So, you know, it was, I don't even think a lot of us in the organization, probably those of you who were in leadership realized it, but a lot of us didn't realize how, you know, how radical the organization really was, you know. I mean, going on the South Side and going to a church where there were Black Panthers, you know. When I told people that I did that, they were probably like, oh my God, thank God you made it home, you know. And
what was it like for you to be there?
Quite frankly, it was exhilarating. It was an eye-opener to see, you know, these people in this church who were just like, you know, wanting a better life for everyone and fighting for it. You know, that was, it didn't turn me away from the organization. It made me really want to, you know, be part of it. You know, it made me feel like, yeah, why are people afraid of people who live on the South Side? This is crazy. They're just the same as us. They're trying to fight for the same thing that we're fighting for. Even if they weren't fighting for anything, we're all just the same, you know?
They wanted free health care too, or access to health care.
Right, exactly, so.
So when you think about the experience in Rising Up Angry, how do you think it affected the rest of your life?
Well, one of the early things that I did for Rising Up Angry was being a health advocate at the Fritzi Engelstein Clinic. And you know, I loved doing it. I didn't do it for a long time, but when I eventually became a nurse, it really, I could see how that training helped me really be a better nurse and helped me, you know, be open to what people were saying, or if they were maybe having a weird look on their face, to say, well, wait a minute, maybe you don't understand what the doctor told you or what we're talking about, and to be more patient and understanding with people. And I think, you know, it still helps me to this day in caring for people with Alzheimer's, because, you know, you have to be open to a totally different kind of personality. And, you know, by being a person who was open from the time I was a teenager to diverse populations, I think it really makes me a better nurse.
So when you say you were taught or trained as a health advocate, what I think you're implying is it made you respect and listen to the patients rather than the classical medical model that the doctor knows everything and the patient doesn't know everything. Is that what you meant?
Exactly. So how we were trained is we were trained to go in with the patient to their doctor's visit. And these were progressive doctors, and these were progressive healthcare providers. And we were trained to question what they were saying, to question them if we felt the patient might be afraid to ask, to speak up for this person, to not be afraid of their position, and to show them that they could ask questions too. And so that was a really unique model, because as you say, you know, the medical profession kind of has this, especially back then, you know, they were up here and we were down here, and you do what we said, and it was usually one size fits all. And so, you know, that's not how it is. Patient care is all about, you know, person-centeredness and taking each person for who they are and fitting the medical treatment into what they need.
Makes a lot of sense. So, Jill, is there anything you'd like to share with young people today?
Well, I'd like to say that, you know, you have to stand up for something, and it's better to be on our side than on that other side. And
Why do you say that?
Because we're on the side of the people. You know, we care for those who don't have a voice to speak for them, and we did, and now you have that on your shoulders. I recently met with my niece, and she said she was at a conference for young lawyers, and the older lawyers told them, well, now it's up to you. You guys have to do the civil rights work, because we're old and we're tired. And she's the daughter of my son Jack, and it's great to meet her. I hadn't had much contact with her after he died, and I said, yeah, that's right. You guys got to carry the torch now. And I say that to other young people: carry the torch, and keep on fighting for power to the people.